For those of you who don't know, I am Lindy Cameron and I am the publisher of Clandestine Press. Thank you. I'm not starting talking, but I thought I'd just get everyone in here. The first person who's going to talk today is Tony Wheeler, who you probably all already know as well. I used to work for Lonely Planet, God help me, 20 years ago, and actually have not seen Tony for 2 decades, so I was incredibly honoured that he agreed to come and do the official launching tonight, so I'll get Tony to speak first. Thank you.
Good evening, and I'll speak into this microphone that doesn't act as a microphone to help me at all as well.
Anything for a postmortem?
Anything, yeah. Look, Lonely Planet in Melbourne, you know, I sometimes feel we have this sort of 6 degrees of separation in Melbourne, that anybody in Melbourne has either worked for Lonely Planet or knows somebody who's worked for Lonely Planet or is related to someone who's written for Lonely Planet or even slept with someone at Lonely Planet. That often seems to be the case. So there, 6 degrees and you get to Lonely Planet. And of course, Lonely Planet is a bit like Clandestine Press, in that we started in self-publishing, and the first couple of books we did, I wrote, and the first dozen we did, I wrote half of them, and of course the first 3 books that Clandestine are publishing, Lindy's the author of one of them, so that's a good thing. And of course it is a small publishing house. I like a publishing house where you can get the whole house and all the authors into one small area. That's always a really good thing. And the areas they're publishing about, I don't think there's anything in the fiction field that goes more to travel than crime fiction. Crime fiction always seems to me to have a real sense of place about it. That a certain author relates to a certain place, whether it's Melbourne or Los Angeles or Miami or London or wherever. So that's terrific that they're doing that. I think that historical fiction, and we go to Egypt. I've just been in Egypt in the last couple of weeks, and I think very often a book that takes you there in a fictional way, tells you more about the place than any scholarly report you might read, any historical book. So I'm sure that Kerry's book on Egypt probably will tell you more about Egypt than you'd get from reading some history of Egypt. And finally, cats. I mean, what a genre, cats. Lindy says it may go to other things like alpacas or, or in Australia, sheep. We could have some sheep books, but no sheep? Okay, no sheep.
Zombies.
But see, that's killer sheep. I mean, the New Zealanders have done a film about killer sheep. So, we got to approve of that. But I've had cats around the house. I like cats, so I'm all for cat books as well, cat fiction. So look, I think it's a great series of books that they've started with, and you could say it's a brave time to start a new publishing house right now. But hey, we're reading more words than ever. Perhaps not all of them are on paper anymore. They're coming through on your phone or your iPad or on your computer screen or whatever. But as far as words go, there's more words in front of us than there have ever been. And there's also more interest in books. You only have to go to writers' festivals. I've been to a writers' festival in Jaipur in India this year. I've been to one in Margaret River in Western Australia. I've been to one in Italy. So, writers' festivals are on all over the world. And they're a real indication that love of books is there as strong as it's ever been, if not stronger. So look, Clandestine Press, a great start. Lindy, I hope it goes really well. If you haven't got a glass, fictionally raise one to Clandestine Press.
All right. This is strange. I'm used to microphones that actually, do something. But then again, there it is. My name is Kerry Greenwood. I was really, really, really unhappy in 1995 when I realised that the book I had spent an entire year, for a long time, that's a long time for me, researching, which had caused me to have to learn hieroglyphics and sent me all the way to Egypt and back, which was in itself a, sometimes strange occurrence, was not going to be published because the original publisher had just been bought out by a Dutch cigar manufacturer. And since it wasn't Dutch or about cigars, they didn't want it. So I took my wounded book home and stored it under my bed, thinking that someone eventually in the world would really like it because I loved it dearly. Because I wrote it for my friend Mark Deasy, who is as close as you get to a saint who isn't actually, hard to live with, whom I first met at GaySoc at Melbourne University, in the Jurassic. I used to write a Stegosaurus to university. We called him Steggy. He was very sweet, a very long time ago, and realised that the life of a gay man is extremely hard. And part of the hard is to do with shame, guilt, and all that other stuff, and everybody else feeling the same things. And so when I was reading about Egypt, I found out that the general confession you had to make before your heart was weighed against the feather of Martua's truth, which, if you got it wrong, would get your heart eaten by a crocodile-headed creature called Apophis, which wasn't good. Usually gives you a good summary of what the sins of the people are. What are they saying they haven't done? So they were saying, I haven't oppressed the widow and fatherless. To those who are thirsty, I have given water. To those who are hungry, I've given food. I have never lain with a woman who was a child, which is a very good prohibition. There's no sexual sins at all. I'm not greedy, I'm not nasty, I'm not unkind to the widow and orphan, nor indeed anyone else. Kindly don't eat my heart, rather sums it up. So I thought I would actually try and write, among other things, a gay love story that didn't have any background of anything being wrong, which was surprisingly hard, difficult to do, but I think I managed it. And I wrote it for him because I think he's an amazing person. There were certain difficulties, like ploughing through Egyptology, which is an estate you can only describe as a dog's breakfast. There seems to be nothing between the people who are convinced the pyramids came here from Mars to the people who are absolute experts on... I met one, a guy who was an expert on commemoratory scarabs of the 18th dynasty, and that's all he knew about. He knew a lot about that, but that was all he knew about. There doesn't seem to be anything in between, so the research was fraught with difficulty. But when I was wandering away from a guided tour in the Valley of the Kings, because it was heading me towards somebody's, warehouse where they were going to ask us to buy stuff made by their relatives, and I wasn't going, I wandered into a series of tombs, in a big rock-cut tombs above the Valley of the Kings, above the Pharaoh's tombs, which are the most important. And there was a tomb of a great royal judge, and he obviously liked wine. It was a beautifully painted tomb with all the possibilities of making wine, the growing of the grapes, the scrunching of the grapes, the bottling of them. And we know that they were heavily into wine because even Tutankhamun's tomb has little things marked Tashery Vintage 3. We're talking about really winemakers. And there were two men making love in the reeds in front of a little hut. And it was a tomb painting. It was obviously meant to commemorate that man's life and what he wanted to continue to do in the afterlife. So I was exceedingly delighted when my learned colleague and fellow sister in crime decided that she was going to take the massive, ginormous leap of becoming a publisher herself. And she was anxious to not only take my book, but to make such an incredibly beautiful production out of it. And I do thank her very much, and I hope that you like it. Thank you.
Hello, my name's David. I'm not actually Dougal. I'm a little bit taller than Dougal, but not very much because he is a giant kitten. I've been channeling Dougal for some time now, ever since we met a couple of years ago. He's a very interesting cat with a very unusual approach to life. He's determined to be a good cat. An awful lot of cats out there aren't good cats, as you probably know, but he decided he wanted to be a good cat. Now, he's very shy in company, but he has left me a prepared statement. Meow. Yeah, that's the executive summary is meow. Okay. Right. First, Dougal would like to thank you all for coming tonight. I couldn't make it tonight because I have to mind the baby wattlebirds. There's some complicated arrangement we've worked out about childcare around here ever since the wattlebirds came back for the summer. And for some reason, I seem to come up on the roster a fair bit. It's the last time I'm letting my little sister negotiate a peace treaty, I can tell you. I really hope you like my book. I'm afraid that even though man does speak cat reasonably well, there are some odd mistranslations in the text. Example, April 17, it says, didn't feel like chasing anything today, slept a lot. That's what he thought I said. What I actually said was, April 17, didn't feel like chasing anything. The clouds today remind me of Giorgioni's La Tempesta. Liam Jones should definitely play in the forward pocket. And my Munchies bowl's empty again, not good enough. So, as you can see, man gets some of it right, but he does miss a few nuances. And I'd like to say on behalf of my fellow cats, we spend an awful lot of our lives trying to understand human behaviour. You know, big questions like, why are you going out today when you could be cuddling me? That box looks much better where it is, thank you. Yes, your bum does look big in that. Really not that blouse. The colour scheme makes my eyeballs bleed. And why is my munchies bowl empty again? We try and decode everything of yours, but we don't have enough information to join the dots. So we'd like you guys to return the favour. I've got a short quiz here for you, just to give you an idea what I mean. Question 1. Your cat is sitting quietly next to his food bowl, which is empty. He looks mournfully at you. What does he want? A, the answer to Fermat's last theorem. B, a scritch under the chin with your paws. C, a stiff gin and tonic. D, you to fill his munchie's bowl immediately. And it isn't a trick question. The answer really is D. Question 2. Your cat's sitting quietly next to you. Suddenly he lifts himself on his hind paws and purrs in your lap. What does he want? To tell you he loves you? To let you caress his face and flanks? To tell you that Control-Alt-F4 might help? Or you to fill his munchies bowl immediately? Again, it's D. Yep. And finally, question 3. Your cat's taking up more and more of the bed, especially around the electric blanket. You should A, curl up into a tighter ball so there's more room for him. B, caress his ears and cheeks and tell him he's a good cat. C, fill his munchies bowl immediately. Or D, all of the above. And again, it's a D. Now, that's just a starting point. Soon I'll have a closer look at the more detailed lexicography of cat-human, human-cat, especially the former. But I think it's time for my nap now. I send you all fishy paws and snuggles, and I hope you all have a lovely evening. Thank you.